What if I told you a canine dog saved 7 innocent lives just by barking at a single train car every day? At first, everyone thought he was just being noisy, but when police finally opened that car, what they found shocked the entire town. This is the incredible, heart-pounding story of a loyal canine who refused to stay silent and saved 7 children from an unthinkable fate. Stick with us till the end, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Canine Era. You won't believe what happens next. The small town of Maplewood was known for its quiet evenings, friendly neighbors, and the distant rumble of freight trains passing through. Life moved slowly there, and nothing unusual ever seemed to happen until Rex, a 5-year-old German Shepherd and one of the county's top canine dogs, began behaving strangely. Rex belonged to Officer Mark Daniels, a dedicated handler who had spent years working alongside him. They were more than partners, they were family. Daniels had trained Rex since he was a pup, watched him grow into one of the sharpest scent dogs in the entire unit, and trusted his instincts more than anyone else's. But lately, those instincts were pointing towards something dark and mysterious. Every evening, just before 7:15 p.m., Rex would become restless. His ears would perk up long before the distant rumble of wheels on steel reached human ears. By the time the long freight train rolled past Maplewood Crossing, Rex would be in a frenzy, barking, growling, and lunging at his leash. It wasn't just any train car, though. Rex's aggression was focused on one specific blue cargo car, always near the back of the train. Every single night, his reaction was the same. At first, Daniels thought maybe the car carried something that triggered Rex's keen nose, chemicals, perhaps, or a scent that reminded him of danger. But week after week, night after night, the barking didn't stop. It grew more intense, as though Rex was trying desperately to tell Daniels something he couldn't understand. The townsfolk began to notice, too. Onlookers laughed it off at first. "That dog just hates trains," someone joked one evening, but Daniels knew better. Rex wasn't aggressive without cause. He was trained to detect danger, narcotics, explosives, even human scent, and he never reacted this way unless something was very, very wrong. Then, one stormy evening, everything changed. Daniels had parked near the crossing to observe the train more closely. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the long row of cargo cars as rain poured in sheets. Rex was tense, his muscles quivering beneath his soaked fur as the familiar blue car approached. Suddenly, he lunged with such force that Daniels almost lost his grip on the leash, and that's when he heard it. A faint sound, carried on the wind, nearly lost beneath the roar of the storm and the grinding steel wheels. It was soft, high-pitched, and fleeting, but unmistakable, a cry. Daniels froze, heart pounding. He strained his ears, listening harder, and there it was again, distant, muffled, almost impossible to make out. But real. Someone was inside. That car, Rex's barking intensified, wild and frantic, as if begging Daniels to act. Daniels tried to signal the conductor, but the train thundered past without slowing. By the time the sound faded, his mind was racing. Who was in that car? Why were they hidden? And why did nobody seem to notice? That night, Daniels filed a report with his department explaining what he'd seen and heard. But his concerns were dismissed. "Probably stray animals," his chief said. "Those cars are sealed tight." Daniels wasn't convinced. Rex wasn't wrong. Something was happening inside that train, and he was determined to find out what. Daniels began digging. Deeper. He started with the freight company's cargo manifests, searching for any mention of the blue car. But when he finally found the records, something strange stood out. The car wasn't listed anywhere. It was as though it didn't exist. Confused, Daniels contacted the railway supervisor, but got vague responses. Probably an unmarked transport. They said, happens sometimes. But Daniels had been a cop long enough to know when someone was hiding something. Meanwhile, Rex was becoming harder to handle. As each evening passed, he grew more agitated. He'd whine hours before the train even arrived, pacing anxiously around the house and station. Daniels couldn't calm him, couldn't distract him, couldn't ignore him. The dog was trying to communicate something urgent, and Daniels finally started listening. He began staking out the tracks, parking his cruiser near a sharp bend where the train slowed briefly. Every time, the reaction was the same. Rex lunged at the blue car, barking, until his throat was raw. One night, Daniels made a bold move. He crept closer to the tracks, hiding in the shadows as the train slowed to round the curve. Rain fell lightly, the metallic scent filling the air. As the blue car clattered past, Daniels held his breath and listened. This time, there was no mistaking it. He heard voices, faint, terrified, muffled cries. More than one. He raced back to his cruiser and grabbed his radio. But before he could call it in, the train had sped up, disappearing into the night. The next morning, Daniels presented his findings again: the missing manifest records, the suspicious unmarked car, the cries he'd heard. Finally, his chief agreed to escalate the matter. A sting operation was planned. The following Friday night, Daniels, Rex, and a team of officers waited by the tracks. The plan was simple: stop the train, open the car, and see what was inside. But nobody was prepared for what they were about to discover. The night of the sting operation was tense. The air was thick with anticipation, and the silence between the officers spoke louder than words. Officer Daniels stood by his cruiser, the flashing red and blue lights faintly reflecting off his rain-soaked uniform. Beside him, Rex paced restlessly, ears twitching, nose raised to the cool night air. The German shepherd's instincts had led them here, and Daniels could only hope they weren't too late. The train's distant rumble finally broke the stillness. Everyone tensed, readying themselves as the ground beneath their boots began to vibrate. Slowly, the massive line of cargo cars approached, wheels screeching as sparks lit the darkness. Daniel's eyes scanned each car, searching for the familiar blue paint that had haunted his nights. There, he whispered into his radio. "Blue car, 6 from the back." Rex let out a low growl, his gaze locked onto the target. The team had coordinated with railway control to force the train to stop at the crossing, a rare and risky move. As the final signal was given, the brakes screeched loudly, and the cars shuddered to a halt, the sound echoing through the night. Daniels approached cautiously, heart pounding in his chest. The other officers fanned out, weapons drawn, flashlights slicing through the darkness. Rex pulled hard against his leash, barking wildly now, his sharp claws scraping the gravel beneath his paws. It was as if he knew salvation was just a few feet away. Daniels reached the heavy steel door and tried the handle. Locked, he signaled for the bolt cutters. Within seconds, sparks flew as the officers worked furiously to cut through the chains. The metallic clatter of the broken lock hitting the ground was deafening in the silence that followed. "On my count," Daniel said, bracing himself. 3, 2, 1. The doors creaked open with a groan, revealing darkness. The stench of damp wood and stale air rushed out, and then the sound that froze everyone in place, sobs, small, terrified sobs. Daniel's flashlight swept over the interior, and what he saw made his stomach drop. 7 children, they were huddled together. In the farthest corner, their faces pale and streaked with dirt and tears. Their wide, frightened eyes blinked against the sudden light. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Rex barked sharply, jolting the team into action. "It's okay," Daniels called gently, stepping forward and lowering himself to their level. "You're safe now." The children hesitated, trembling and clinging to one another. Slowly, a little girl, no older than 8, stepped forward and whispered through cracked lips, We heard the dog barking every night. We prayed someone would come." Daniel's throat tightened. He reached out a hand, and the girl cautiously took it. One by one, the children were led out of the car, their tiny figures silhouetted against the flashing police lights. Rex sniffed each of them, his tail wagging softly now, the fury of earlier replaced by quiet reassurance. Backup officers moved quickly to secure the area, detaining 2 men who had been hiding near the tracks. They were part of a human trafficking ring that authorities had been struggling to crack for months. The blue car was their secret transport, moving kidnapped children between towns under the cover of darkness. Had it not been for Rex's relentless barking, they might have slipped through Maplewood unnoticed, taking those children farther from home with each passing day. As ambulances arrived and paramedics wrapped the children in warm blankets, Daniels knelt beside Rex, stroking his damp fur. "You did it, boy," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You saved them for the first time in weeks." Rex sat calmly, watching the scene with quiet, steady eyes. He had known all along. The story spread like wildfire. By morning, news stations from across the state were camped outside the Maplewood Police Department. Cameras clicked, microphones extended, and headlines screamed about the canine who saved 7 kidnapped children. Rex became a hero overnight. People sent letters, toys, and even donations to honor his bravery. Children painted pictures of him, and families who'd once lost hope now clung to their loved ones, knowing 7 lives had been spared because one dog refused to give up. Officer Daniels, though humble, couldn't hide his pride. At a press conference, he stood beside Rex, who wore a shiny new badge on his collar, and addressed the crowd. "Rex didn't just bark," Daniels said, his voice steady but emotional. "He refused to be ignored. He knew something we didn't, and he wouldn't stop until we listened. These 7 children are alive today because of him." Behind him, the rescued children watched quietly, bundled in warm coats and holding small stuffed animals gifted by the department. Some of them smiled shyly whenever Rex turned his head, as if silently thanking the dog who had saved them. The investigation into the trafficking ring revealed even darker truths. Dozens more children had been taken over the past year, and the criminals were using the blue cargo car to move them undetected between states. Rex's instincts had cracked the case wide open, leading authorities to dismantle one of the most dangerous child trafficking operations in the region. From that day forward, Rex was no longer just a canine. He was Maplewood's guardian. He received awards from local authorities, recognition from national law enforcement agencies, and, perhaps most importantly, endless love from the community he had saved. For Daniels, the bond he shared with Rex only deepened. Every time he looked at his partner, he saw more than a loyal dog. He saw a hero, a savior, and a reminder of why he wore the badge in the first place. Months later, Daniels and Rex returned to the same crossing where it had all begun. The train still rumbled through Maplewood, but the blue car was long gone. Daniels stood quietly, watching the lights fade into the distance, while Rex sat calmly at his side. "You did good, buddy," Daniels murmured, scratching behind Rex's ears. "You changed everything." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the faint echo of the past. Maplewood was safer now. The children were home, and Rex had earned a place in history as the dog who wouldn't stop barking until justice was served. So, if you believe Rex is a true hero, hit the like button and subscribe to Canine Era right now for more incredible stories of canine bravery. These dogs aren't just partners, they're lifesavers, and sometimes they're the only ones who hear the cries the rest of us can't.